Hello, everyone. Governor Justice here with Secretary Hardy and Mark Mukow and from our Revenue Department, and we're going to answer your questions. I'm going to lead off with just a couple of comments. Yesterday we unveiled our plan. It's been a culmination of multiple meetings as well as town halls where we've listened to you and we've tried to incorporate in our plan a methodology that gets rid of our personal income tax in the state of West Virginia and drives opportunity to this state beyond belief. We're the state that is the closest to the population centers of the Northeast, that will be the closest state to that population without a state income tax. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what that would do for us and drive people to West Virginia. Now, if you'll just step back and you'll just be fair and you'll just think just about this, in the state of West Virginia, and Jordan, if you've got that graphic about the nation, do you have the graphic about the nation? But no, the other one, I'm sorry, the other one. Well, you don't have the other one. Okay, but since 1950, you can put that one back up, Jordan. But since 1950, the United States of America has doubled in population. Now just think about this a second. In 1950, the state of West Virginia had 2.2 million people in it. And today we've got 1.7 million and change. We've almost lost 500,000 people since 1950 in West Virginia. Now, I've gotten those numbers from my people and everything. They seem even staggering to me. But if you'll just step back and just think, what if West Virginia would have doubled in population since 1950? West Virginia would have 4.4 million people today. All the other states did that. What happened to West Virginia? What happened to West Virginia? Over and over, we have struggled with trying to generate population growth in West Virginia. This will do it. This right here will do it. This will be the driver that drives folks to West Virginia. Now's the time. I've told you that over and over. The whole world's looking at West Virginia today because of how we've handled the pandemic from the standpoint of economics and health and safety. The whole world is looking at us. Now's the time. Our health from the standpoint of our monies within our state is pretty dadgum good. We've weathered the storm as best we possibly could, with this terrible COVID storm. Now, with all that being said, over and over I say, now is the time. Now's the time to really genuinely drive population growth to West Virginia. Now, if you'll look at this chart, they've got it now and they're going to put it up, but look at this chart right here. That's the United States of America, how it's grown. And West Virginia has decreased. Look at that chart. We have got to some way turn this around. Now, we've had a lot of ideas along the way, and we've done things and made us feel better and everything, but really and truly, whatever the ideas may be, whether they've been on my watch or previous watches or whatever, but really we have continued to decline in population. We have got to find a way to move the needle and move the needle in a positive way. Absolutely what we've done, and it's taken a few weeks to really get input from especially our president, our president of the Senate, Craig Blair, our Speaker of the House, Roger Hanshaw, and the minority as well. And you, from the standpoint of the feedback all along the way in the town halls and on and on. And what we did then is we modified. We tweaked and we tweaked and we tweaked, and we took a little bit here and a little bit there. And what we've come up with at the end of the day is a very substantial decrease in taxes across the net decrease versus the increase of taxes that we're putting in. And in doing so, what we've managed to do is through tax rebate checks that are pure checks that we're just going to send you directly to you. those are for the very lowest income wage earners, and as well as up a little bit, all the way from 10,000, less than 10,000, all the way up to 35,000. They're all going to get a rebate check, all of you. And that rebate check is going to more than compensate you for any tax increase that we've put on. So with all of that, across the board from one end to the other, we have net dollars in your pocket, substantial dollars in your pocket then versus what you have today. That's a win-win for everybody. Now, at the end of the day, what we're looking at here, and is if you choose to listen to the noise that, that may be out there in the bushes and everything, then you may choose to do that. But you're going to miss an opportunity that is off the chart for you. Because every single West Virginian, the way we've got this thing set up, we want to put money in your pocket, additional dollars in your pocket, and bring additional dollars to you, or additional opportunity to you. So with that being said, I won't go through each one of the brackets or anything like that until later in your questions. But with that being said, all I would say is keep an open mind, look at the math. This is our chance. This is our chance, West Virginia. If you trust me, you know that there's no way in the world that I'm going to put the burden on our lowest or our low middle income families. There's no way on this earth that I'm going to do that. There's no way. No way. Absolutely, I've spread this thing out across all the entire board and made it cash positive to everybody. So with that being said, we'll take your questions now, and we'll try to answer as many as we possibly can in this hour. And the only other thing I'd say to you is just this: I apologize for canceling this. It was yesterday evening. I got a call about 3 o'clock yesterday that, our little dog, a Boston Terrier that we've had for 12 and a half years, had gotten really sick, and she's had a tough time for a couple of months. But Kathy called and said that the vet said that they had to put her to sleep yesterday, and so I didn't want Kathy there by herself, and so I went home and had to cancel a few things, and that's why I had to cancel yesterday. And I hate like crazy. I'm not very good at this, but our little Lucy we lost yesterday, and she's been in the bed with us every night, and really a good little rascal. So I hope and pray she's found a place in heaven, and things are good, because she's had a tough go over the last couple of months. But anyway, thank you all so much. We'll answer your questions now.
All right, thank you, Governor. The first question today comes from Dave in Wheeling. How can you expect border cities and counties to compete with a raise in the sales tax?
Well, Dave, here's the thing. Just imagine just this. First of all, the border counties are going to be impacted in a substantially positive way more than any of the other counties, because people are going to come to the border counties to live. I mean, when it really boils right down to it, how many people are going to come to the border counties to live? And it's going to be substantial. Just think just 1 second, Dave, about just this. We have absolutely gotten so bad in West Virginia about maintaining our population or growing population that for us to move up 20% in population would be the lowest hanging and easiest fruit that there could possibly be. And that could happen relatively quickly. Now, you've got to ask yourself just one question. From the standpoint of our retailers and everybody else, do you not think that if we move up 20% in population, that we will not have so many more opportunities for purchases here in West Virginia, for business opportunities here in West Virginia? From the standpoint of raising wages and everything else, just think of the argument of this. We're going to raise the soda tax 5 cents. It hadn't been raised since 1952. Almost 70 years. We're going to raise it 5 cents. Dave, do you really believe if we truly raise the population in your border county by 20%, that you're going to sell more or less soda pop in West Virginia? There's no argument here. There is no argument. Absolutely, at the end of the day, we're going to drive more opportunity to West Virginia than we can imagine. And absolutely, this idea that somebody's going to drive across the bridge and buy a can of soda pop or buy something across the bridge versus people that are absolutely living here, buying their purchases here, doing their things here, to me, there's no argument. And on top of all of that, every single one that's here is going to have way, way, way more money in their pocket than they have today.
All right, the next question comes from Greg in Canova. I just read your proposal, and it will kill many small businesses like mine. You said that every West Virginian would get an income tax break, but that is not true. If you report your income on a Schedule C, as many small business owners do, then you do not get the income tax break. Then on top of that, as a professional in the engineering field, I have to tell my clients that they now have to pay a 7.9% tax, and if the bill is over $5,000, I have to add a luxury tax. This is not the way to get businesses in this state. Can you please tell small business owners the truth? How about we cut the personal property tax on businesses and make it the same as every West Virginian pays? I don't understand why I should pay personal property tax on a chair, a desk, a lamp, and everything I use year after year if every West Virginian does not have to pay it. Do you think this could be done? On the tax you are proposing on professional services, my office is in West Virginia, but I do work in other states. Is West Virginia going to charge the tax on work that is not done in this state? Are you going to tax businesses that don't have an office in this state but work here?
Dave, you're going to have to answer an awful lot of this and everything, but let me just try to pick off a little bit of it at the end. First of all, the property taxes in the state of West Virginia across the board are relatively just a fraction of what they are, especially with our border states and everything. I think we're very, very competitive with our property taxes in West Virginia. I have removed any property tax increase from this proposal. You know, from the standpoint of, you know, if you're one of the professionals that we're talking about, you know, of raising, you know, your tax, you know, putting you into the same category as a plumber or an electrician that pays the tax all the time. You know, if you're in fact that and everything, just think about this. Just step back and think about it. For the most part, the more wealthy people are using those services more than the poorest people. The more wealthy people are going to more easily be able to afford a slight increase than the people in our lower brackets, and that's why we did the rebates. From the standpoint of the professional services, you can pass along, you know, that tax that we would put on the professional services if you choose so, or if you choose to be very, very competitive with your neighbors or whatever, you can find a way maybe to eat part of that yourself. But the biggest thing that is absolutely going to happen to you is just one thing, and that is just this. Where you have X amount of business today, if we in fact truly do this and bring you a multiple of times of business, are you not going to be better off? I mean, for crying out loud, you know, if you pass along a tax or if you eat a tax, but you end up with a lot more business, it seems to me without any question, you're going to stand to gain and gain very substantially. Now, Dave, maybe you could answer the rest of the other pieces.
One thing I wanted to point out to Greg is that the proposed luxury tax would not apply to engineering services at all. So that's not even something that you would have to worry about, Greg. The other questions that you had there, is West Virginia going to charge the tax on work that is not done in the state? The answer is no. If the work is not done in the state, it's not charged the tax. And the next question was, are you going to tax businesses that don't have an office in the state but work here? Only if the service that they're doing in this state is for work done in this state. In other words, the sales tax would apply for services rendered that are for services done in this state. That's the most important thing to remember, not so much where the office is, but where the services are rendered.
All right, the next question comes from Vincent in Wheeling. Your proposal this week was only for a 60% cut in income taxes. Why do you keep calling it a tax repeal or an elimination of the income tax when I'll still have to pay 40% of the state income tax, plus your proposed highest sales tax in the country on more purchases than are taxed today?
Well, first of all, in order to get there, you've got to get in the pool. And getting in the pool at a 60% deduct on day one is pretty dadgum bold and pretty big move. From the standpoint of not having to raise additional taxes as we go forward, if we can maintain a relatively flat budget, and by that I said relatively flat, we want to continue to provide all the services and everything in a great, great way in West Virginia that we're already doing. But if we can grow in this state at just a nominal rate, we will absolutely be able to absorb the other 40% in a relatively short period of time. My short period of time is 3 years, but it could take 4 years in order to be able to pull that off. But if we were able to absorb the other 40%, we would be extinguishing the income tax completely, and we would do so without raising another dime of your taxes, and that's exactly what we should try to accomplish.
All right, the next question comes from William and Chloe. Please do not impose unrealistic and unneeded taxes on vape supplies. I've been completely smoke-free for 2 years because of vaping. While I understand the need to curb young people using it and the need to raise monies in the state, this will hurt a lot of folks. A 100 milliliter bottle of juice is roughly the equivalent of 2 packs. A realistic tax would be about $7.50, which is what we already pay. In fact, a great way to bring new people to West Virginia, and thus money, would be to legalize marijuana and tax the absolute crap out of it like they do in other states. Then put effort into getting people to grow and manufacture hemp products. Then possibly push for more renewable energy in our state. But please don't do a $70 tax on my vapes, man.
Chloe, let me try, to answer just a little bit of it and everything. And I'm going to defer as well because, I'm not sure exactly the vaping dollars and all that kind of stuff. But can I say this to you? I'm not a proponent of recreational marijuana, and I've said that before. But at the same time, it seems like the entire nation is going to end up moving that way. And if in fact the entire nation is going to move that way, if our legislature, from the standpoint of the Republicans in the House, were to bring me that, and it would be tied to using those extra dollars, those tax dollars, it would be tied to a methodology to get rid of additional, and it won't get rid of all of it, there's no way, but get rid of additional, personal income tax, I would support it. But I'm not in favor, but I would support it if people got on board and brought that to me. Secretary, can you answer some of the beginning part of the question?
Sure.
I can't answer.
The question is about the vaping products, and what we tried to do is we tried to put the vaping product on the same tax scale as the tobacco cigarette product. So that's how we came up with the new rate on tobacco, and then from that rate, we then derived a number to put on the other type of products, the vape products. So that's where that number came from. And there's a lot of movement across the country on that type of product and whether or not it should be taxed. And it's clearly part of the issue is, of course, that it is a health hazard.
It is a real health hazard to our kids, too.
All right, the next question comes from Dr. Santilli in Clarksburg. Explain how this will in no way negatively impact the middle and low class citizens. I will pay far more in sales taxes and fees than what I'll save in income tax.
Well, Doc, let me just touch on a couple, and I'll just tell you, and all these charts have been prepared by our revenue people, and they take into consideration all kinds of metrics and everything that lead them to exactly, what they have is they understand how many people are going to spend X number of dollars on sales tax and tobacco and, soft drinks and all that kind of stuff. But now just think about this. If you're a family that has an income of $35,000 and you go all the way across this line, you're going to immediately see an income tax saving of $636. It's going to cost you $186 more on sales tax, $40 more on increase of soft drinks. You're going to get a $50 rebate check, and the net for that family is $460 a year if you don't smoke and you don't drink. Now, if you do use tobacco and you do use alcohol, the same family all the way across ends up with a $310 more money in their pocket than where we are today. Now, if you're a family that is $10,000 or less, you pay no income tax. You're going to end up paying $79 more of consumer sales tax, $46 on tobacco, $13 more on soft drinks, $18 more on beer, $8 more on lottery tickets, and you're going to get a $350 rebate check, and you're going to end up $186 more in your pocket than you are today. Now, if you're a family making $70,000 and you use tobacco and alcohol, you're going to end up with $1,273 more money in your pocket today than if we don't do this. Now, if you don't use tobacco or buy lottery tickets or alcohol, and you're making $70,000 as a household income, you're going to end up with $1,475 more. If you're at $35,000, I've already told you that, and at $10,000, you will end up with $258 more in your pocket than you have today. That's it. That's the real numbers.
All right, the next question comes from Kelly in South Charleston. How can lawmakers be expected to make a well-informed decision about your tax reform proposal without full information about the expected budget needs in upcoming years that are typically found in the 6-year outlook of your budget proposal? This is the first year I can remember there not being a 6-year outlook. Further, for 2 years now, we've had to use Medicaid dollars to close budget gaps, a sign that we already have structural challenges meeting the needs of our people, which would only be worsened with tax cuts.
Secretary, that's you.
Yes.
And Mark.
Sure. With respect to the question about Medicaid dollars, we had good problem the last 2 budget years. We had too much money set aside for Medicaid. That was not a bad thing. It was the fact that the Medicaid numbers had come way down from 550,000 to about 502,000 enrollees, and the legislature had done a real good job setting aside money in a reserve fund. And we felt very, very comfortable that we could take some of those dollars and use them for other needs in the state budget. It was an overfunding situation. It wasn't that we were taking money from Medicaid, it's we were recognizing that we had overfunded Medicaid. With respect to a 6-year plan, it is very, very difficult, and anybody who understands the state budget will tell you that, to try to project the state's budget out 6 years. Mark to my left here and Mike Cook, our state budget director, we work very, very hard to try to project out 18 months, maybe 24 months. But if we were in a time machine and we went back to the year 2015 and we were trying to figure out the status of our budget today, I can't even begin to think what that would be like. So that highlights for you how difficult it is to project the state's budget out that far. We think the budget right now is in good shape. We know it's in good shape. We have a AA stable rating from the bond rating agencies, and we will always look ahead before we make moves. I often say with the state budget, it's not like turning a car, it's like turning an aircraft carrier. So we do it very carefully and very slowly.
All right, the next question comes from Sarah in Lewisburg. Hello, Governor. If your goal is to make West Virginia a more appealing place to live, especially to younger generations, and to bring back those people we lost due to youth flight, have you considered actually involving them/us in the conversation? We don't want an income tax elimination to drive us back home. We want housing, jobs, student loan forgiveness, and equality for all, not just a few. Involving us in the conversation could bridge the gap and get the ball rolling in the right direction to bring us back home.
Well, let me just answer that. I think I can answer it real quick, Sarah. Appreciate your question. And Sarah, here's the whole thing. Just think just a second about just this. All the things that you want, you know, from the standpoint, we should all strive that we don't discriminate against anyone. All the things that you want as far as job opportunity and things, you know, that appeal to our youth or young people and everything, all those things are exactly the result of what will happen with this. You tell me, Sarah, you know, how in the world, what other alternative is out there? What other alternative could possibly be out there that could truly, truly drive people to our state? Make our state more loving, make our state more attractive to the younger, make our state with more job opportunities. What is there? What is there out there that could do that? You know, just remember over and over and over, we have done amazingly well in the last 4 years, and we could just take a victory lap, kick back and do nothing and everything, but that's not me, and that's not what I'm going to do. But this absolutely would accomplish, at least I would hope and pray, this would accomplish exactly what you want to see, Sarah.
All right, the next question comes from Gabriel in Clarksburg. Can we please see the numbers or statistics on this proposal or a reasoning as to how eliminating the income tax and creating a new layer of courts won't blow up the budget to the point that we have to make cuts to things like education?
Well, let me answer it real quick. The dollars for an intermediate court and everything, we feel like would be recouped many times over and everything, because absolutely we see a need for that within our state. From the standpoint of that blowing up our budget or whatever, there's no way. There's just no way. Absolutely, we think we can maintain a relatively flat budget and not grow government just for the sake of growing government. But absolutely, if you'll, and I forgot the caller's name, but
It was Gabriel.
Gabriel, just hear me out. One thing you're dead on right in the middle of the bullseye on is one thing, and that is that everybody needs to see completely transparent my proposal and the numbers. They went up yesterday. You know, we're trying to tell you about them as we speak right here. But you need to seek through our websites or wherever it may be, through your representatives or wherever, all the numbers and how all the numbers interact together and how they all work. I'm telling you, at the end of the day, you're going to end up with more money in your pocket, and you're going to end up with an opportunity like you can't imagine to raise wages, drive up your home value, all kinds of different things with people coming to our state. So with all that being said, you need to get the numbers. The numbers are up. The numbers are completely transparent. We've tried to absolutely continue to tweak and work with everybody, including you and everything, in modifying and making this plan as best we possibly can.
All right, the next question comes from Diana in Belmont. As a retiree on Social Security who does not make enough to pay West Virginia income tax, will the removal of West Virginia income tax affect me through higher sales taxes, property taxes, and fees? It would definitely be a boon for the wealthy, but it seems it would only increase the burden on the poor if we will just have to pay higher taxes on everything else that we must use just to live here. Thank you in advance for considering this issue. I really appreciate your getting rid of the tax on Social Security and the raise you provided to our wonderful public employees.
Well, believe me, it was an honor to be able to get rid of the Social Security tax and the raises to our public employees, because they do great work. But let me just step back and just say just this. We've got to get this out of our system to where we think, and where this seed has come from, I'll never know. But where we think we are laying the burden on our elderly or our poorest income earners or whatever, and this is really, really beneficial to our wealthy. You know, a lot of the problems that we've had forever as a nation are we become divided in the way we think about something. But really, when it really boils down to this, just ask yourself one thing and one thing alone. Do you really think that Jim Justice would do anything whatsoever that would be detrimental to our people that are struggling the most? There's no way on this planet. There's just no way. If in fact I didn't have a mechanism for you to be able to put more money in your pocket, more dollars in your pocket, through a rebate check or whatever it may be, there's no way that I will go along with this. No way whatsoever. So from the standpoint of the people that are struggling the most, whether it be the seniors, you know, that are on Social Security or whatever it may be, or the low income wage earners and everything, they're going to get a rebate check. And that's going to absolutely more than compensate them for any increase that they'd have in consumer sales tax or whatever. And for the people that are doing really well, do we not want them to come to West Virginia as well? Because when they come, they bring a business with them, and they bring job opportunity to us. And they spend a lot of money here in West Virginia that helps us in every way. We need to be at this just how we've been with the coronavirus. We don't need to be black, white, rich, poor, all that. We need to be West Virginians. And absolutely in this, you've got to trust me that there's no way, there's just plain no way that I'm going to let anybody get hurt at the goodness to another group of people. I'm not going to do that.
All right, the next question comes from Lou in Morgantown. Why would eliminating all personal income tax work better in West Virginia than it did in Kansas?
Because Kansas is Kansas, and West Virginia is West Virginia. I say it over and over, but you know, you're hanging your hat on Kansas. Why don't you hang your hat on Tennessee, Florida, Texas? Why don't you hang your hat on Wyoming? Hanging your hat on Kansas. Who wants to go to Kansas? You know, I mean, for crying out loud, we're within a rock's throw of 2/3 of the population of this country. Do you really think people are going to leave New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and go to Kansas? But they will leave there and come to West Virginia, a state that abounds in goodness beyond all belief. 4 incredible seasons, all the different beauty and majestic mountains and everything that we have here. I mean, absolutely. Just step back and answer your own question and just think about what you're saying. We're not Kansas.
Next question from Arthur in Martinsburg. With the additional tax on tobacco and soda, why not include alcohol if these are meant to add income and make West Virginia healthier?
Done deal. Absolutely, you were right. We heard you in our town halls, and we did exactly that. We lessened some other taxes, and we put some taxes on beer, wine, and liquor. You were exactly right. We did just that.
Next question from Mary Beth in Colliers. Has a study been done to show the impacts of increasing different taxes on the population with fixed incomes or the working poor?
I'm going to defer to Dave. You know, there's been tons and tons of studies, but maybe Secretary Hardy would do better.
Sure, we did a very careful look at that. We used with the assistance of Mark Muco here to my left. We looked at the U.S. Census data for West Virginia. We looked at our income tax returns for the state of West Virginia by category. We looked at spending habits of West Virginians to try to measure, and we did measure how much each household would spend on certain items such as soft drinks, tobacco products, lottery. And from that, we made a recommendation to the governor, and the governor agreed with the recommendation, and then I believe even raised it some, that we would balance out the lower income levels in West Virginia by offering a rebate each year on your state income tax. So in addition to getting your income taxes reduced by 60%, if you are a taxpayer at the lower levels, you're also going to get a rebate, and that rebate program for households of less than $10,000 started at $350, and at $15,000, of course, it went up to $200, and so on and so forth, up to $35,000 household income. That was done not by happenstance, that was done by analysis, and it was done with the idea that if you were going to pay more for certain things, the rebate would more than exceed what you were going to pay, and every taxpayer would come out ahead.
And I'd like to add one more thing on that, and that's just this: if you have an income less than $10,000 and you are not filing a tax return and everything, we're going to find a methodology for you to be able to file something that may be as simple as just a one-page deal and everything, to where you'll get the rebate check as well.
All right, the next question comes from Mark in Charleston. While I am in favor of eliminating the state income tax, actually all taxes, I would like to know how this cannot have a negative impact on lower income residents and seniors, many who are not paying income taxes now. Also, if property valuations increase, taxes will also. This on people who can least afford them. I can see county governments forcing people to sell their homes because taxes have risen to the point they cannot pay them. It happens now when residential property is trained, as happened on Quarter G with the introduction of the shopping centers.
Dave, you're going to have to answer. Mark, bless your heart, I understand your lack of welcoming on taxation, because I don't know that any American likes taxation, but at the same time, to run the services of government, we adopted that many years ago, and so Dave, maybe you could add a little bit.
Yeah, a couple extra comments there, and then I'll kind of reiterate what I said earlier. That we did take a hard look at lower income households, and that's why we, with the governor, suggested that we develop the rebate plan. I'll give you an example. If your household income is $20,000, which is fairly low, but there are many West Virginia household incomes of that level, your tax decrease is $324. We factored in the fact that you might pay some extra taxes on consumer sales, tobacco, soft drinks, and that's assuming that you imbibe in all those products. Many people, of course, don't drink liquor or wine or smoke, but if you do, you're still getting a $200 rebate, and to the good, you're coming out $212 to the good. So this was thought out, and this was considered, because it's true that many of the lower income folks in West Virginia need a helping hand, and we wanted to be sure that this plan was very fair. As far as the property tax go, there's no plan, and there isn't anything in this income tax bill to raise property taxes. At one point, there was a bit of discussion about whether that would be an option. The governor decided that he did not want to go that route, and that was taken completely out of the plan. So there's no property tax increase in the plan at all.
Mark, I want to add just this. Was it Mark? Is that correct?
Yes, it was Mark.
Mark, just remember just one thing, and please, and this is for all the listeners out there. We don't have a way to make a metric and everything that works, for someone that's going to go out and someone is smoking, 5 packs of cigarettes a day and drinking, 18 cans of pop a day. We don't have any way of coming up with a metric and everything that's going to help that person. In fact, that person really needs to step back and really think about what they're doing, because, that's surely not a way that's going to sustain your life for a long time. So just for everybody remember that. We did not try to evaluate the super extremes.
Next question comes from Morgan in Charleston. What is the specific numerical breakdown of how the state will recover the revenue loss of 43% of the state budget of eliminating the personal income tax?
Well, let me just buzz through it as fast as I possibly can. $475 million will come in additional consumer sales tax. $180 million will come in the fact that we're going to tax with our sales tax to our professionals such as legal and accounting and so on. $20 million will come in a luxury tax, the additional luxury tax. $12,500,000 in additional from the natural gas, and an additional $5 million on the wet gas. There'll be an additional $7.5 million come in on the thin seam coal side, and an additional $16 million will come in on severance from metallurgical and steam coal. An additional $1 million will come in on oil. $70 million will come in on cigarettes. $8.2 million on tobacco products. $8 million on e-cigarettes. $26 million on beer. $5.5 million on wine. $5.4 million on liquor. The soft drinks will bring in $62.5 million for a total deduction with the rebate checks. The rebate checks will total $52 million. $52 million will be going out to our poorer and our lower middle income families. $52 million in straight rebate checks. The total deduction, the total tax deduction or reduction will be $1,035,000,000 plus $52 million in rebate checks for a total of $1,087,650,000. The total increase of all the taxes that what we put on there that are spread out across the board all the way across will total $902,600,000. You will basically what will really basically be happening is you will see a 15, 16, 17% deduction versus increase in taxes.
Next question comes from Don in Parkersburg. With all we hear on higher education and so much on uneducated workforce, that you decide not to make cuts to Promise Scholarship Fund or any fund tied to our kids' education for income tax bill. Thank you.
I'll be real quick. There's no way in the world I'm going to be in favor of getting rid of the Promise Scholarship. You know, there's nothing in this that deducts money from our higher ed and those institutions at all.
Next question from Josh in St. Albans. Research from the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy has shown that elimination of the income tax shifts the tax burden to the poor. Pre-COVID, West Virginia had the 6th highest poverty rate in the U.S., according to the Census Bureau's American Community Survey. How can you expect to fully fund the state by increasing taxes on those already struggling to make ends meet?
We've been over this over and over, sir, and I appreciate the question and everything, and you know, all the stuff will be up on, I guess, our websites or all the legislature's websites and everything. And so just get it and study it and mull it over, and you'll see how it's a myth.
The state to make up the difference. Won't this lead to more food insecurity and hunger?
That was brought up to me as a possible way to bring in additional dollars, and it was even thought, you know, that you could increase it by 3%, put back on 3% food tax. You could bring in another $75 million. I said, there's no way I'm going to do it. There's no way, period. You know, if this would come to me with a food tax on it, I'd veto my own bill.
Next question comes from David in Scott Depot. Eliminating income tax is a big step to take all at once. Have you considered an incremental approach to keep finances stable? A first step could be eliminating income tax for a retirement income to attract people back to West Virginia, and another step could be stepping down the tax rate over a period of years. We are interested in hearing your thoughts on the matter. Thank you.
All those are ideas, and all those are good ideas. You know, I'm not going to dismiss any of those ideas and everything. That's the whole problem here. If you don't watch out, you're going to have 134 ideas and everything. Well, by the time we get through 134 ideas, even if there were 134 Jim Justices, If you get through 134 Jim Justices with all kinds of different ideas, we'll never get there. We got to do something. This is a great plan. There's all kinds of different ideas. One thing you have to do in the plan is this. You've got to be convincing enough to the outside world that you're truly going to get rid of your income tax. If you stick your big toe in the pool, who's going to believe that you're really getting rid of your income tax, and who's going to come? The outside world's got to believe you're getting rid of your income tax, and this is why this plan is what it is.
Next question from Jim in Parkersburg. Where does the legislation stand on doing away with state income tax?
Well, the bill just went up yesterday. We've had tons and tons of conversations with all of our legislatures. They're all different sides from the majority to the minority. The reason we were a little late getting started today is I was in a meeting with about 20 of the minority leaders from the standpoint of the House and the Senate as well. We've had continual discussion, and I'm very optimistic that everyone is going to absolutely understand that a no vote is basically a vote that would be telling people, we do not want you to have more money in your pocket, and we do not want you to have more opportunities than you have today. A no vote would be catastrophic in my book.
Next question from Angela in Huntington. In light of Governor Justice's push to alleviate the state income tax, there has been no mention of how the state plans to continue state funding for higher education, which comes from the current income tax. What are your plans in regards to higher education funding? Will it be continued from a different budget line? Will this funding be eliminated or reduced?
Dave, that's you.
The answer is a pretty simple answer. The answer is no. There's no plan whatsoever to eliminate the state income or eliminate higher education funding. The governor told us when we started this project and this plan that he wanted to keep the state budget flat. So this year we actually proposed a state budget that was just a teeny bit smaller than last year's budget, about $4.8 million smaller. But there was not one dime taken out of higher education funding. And there's no plan in the future to in any way reduce higher education funding. We tried to develop a plan that would not only would allow for the phase out of the state income tax, hopefully over 3 years, but also at the same time do a reasonable plan on the other side of the equation, the revenue side, so not anybody's getting hurt too badly. We got a bunch of smaller taxes across different parts of West Virginia's economy to keep our budget stable and not require us to make real hard and painful cuts that nobody wanted to make.
Let me say one more thing too. We want to always be looking, do we not? And we want to always be smart. One of our finance chairs, Senate Leader Tarr, has come up with a lot of good and a lot of different thoughts and everything in regard to higher ed. And as we move forward and everything, if ideas come about to where we can keep higher ed whole or make higher ed better, and we can reduce dollars and everything and make it just work better, we want to always be open to everything and all the proposals that people have. But right now in my world, in this bill that we sent up, there's no reductions whatsoever for higher ed in this.
All right, the next question comes from Jess in Parkersburg. Have you spoken to or surveyed legislators to determine their position on the phase out and repeal of the personal income tax? If so, what have they said and what is the main concern?
Well, I've spoken to more than you can imagine, and I think their major concern is just this: for anyone, change is a little difficult. And absolutely, they have been, astute, and they have been wanting the bill. They've been wanting the specifics of the bill. And in doing so, I've been a little slow in getting them that because we have been continually tweaking and taking knowledge from them, knowledge from you, and making the bill better. Now they have the bill and everything, and there'll be a whole lot more dialogue that'll come about and everything. But the biggest concern that I have is It's just like people, whether you should take the vaccine or not. You know, there's people out there that absolutely are not going to take the vaccine, period. I don't have a problem with that. But I do have a big problem with them going out and trying to convince others not to take the vaccine so they'll feel better. Why should they do that? If they convince you you're going to grow antlers because if you take the vaccine and you say, no, I don't want to grow antlers and so I'm not going to take it, and you end up getting sick and we end up losing you, it's just not smart. The vaccine stuff is absolutely, we should be taking our vaccine. And from this standpoint, to run out and say, oh, this is going to devastate our poorest people and everything, there's no way that Jim Justice is going to be a party to that. There is no way. And so just make sure that you get the facts and you deal with facts and not these myths.
Next question from Jay in Parkersburg. Governor, I am a civil plaintiff's attorney. Only 3 states, Hawaii, New Mexico, and South Dakota, tax legal services. One state, Florida, did impose a sales tax, but problems with the cost of administration and enforcement led to its prompt repeal. Taxes on legal fees will ask victims of negligence to pay taxes to the state. Money that should be used to compensate victims will be sent to Charleston. By no fault of their own, they were injured, they've experienced pain and suffering. Asking them to pay taxes on attorney's fees is downright insulting.
Well, let's be real fair. And I'm not going to be popular here with the trial lawyers with what I had to say. But I want to let's be real fair. Are you charging these people 33% or 40%? Are you really expecting me to believe that the work, because I've done tons of work with attorneys, you know, are you really charging these people that are the poorest people that are out there that may have had catastrophic injury or whatever? Are you charging them 40% of the claim, deducting your charges in addition to that or whatever? I mean, and then you're trying to tell me that really and truly somebody, you know, in your profession, that really what I'm trying to do is drive you more and more and more business. More people here mean more business for you. How in the world you could be doing both doesn't work. You can't play both ends with this with me. You can't charge somebody, you know, a 33% fee and expect me to buy into the fact that, oh gosh, you know, this is terrible for those people and everything, and I'm laying the burden on those people. That's not true. And the second thing you can't tell me is it's not going to drive you more business. So absolutely hiding behind this and you know, so that you won't have to pay this tax or whatever like that, I don't buy that.
All right, the last question today comes from David in Charlestown. What impact will result from eliminating the state income tax? Will this bring more businesses and jobs to our state? We fully support this initiative and what you are trying to do in the state. You are doing a great job. Let's hope you get the full support from your colleagues.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and you know, and I can tell you, just like anything and everything, all I have to go on, I don't have any guarantees in life on anything. But none of us do. But when you just step back from this and just look at what's happened to Tennessee. Absolutely look at what's happened to Florida and Texas. Look at what's happened to Wyoming. Look at what's happened to these states, and they're a long ways from the population. So absolutely, if you'll just step back and think, what did these states do to their individuals? What did they do to their businesses? You know, Tennessee has 3 tiers of taxing to their businesses that we won't have in West Virginia. We have 1, corporate income tax. Absolutely, the property tax in these states what are the property taxes in Florida? Are they not unbelievable compared to West Virginia? And then why wouldn't people really come to West Virginia? They will come. They'll come like crazy to West Virginia. And as they come, we want just more and more and more business opportunity, job opportunity for us all. We want absolutely to begin to grow. We want to drag ourselves into the future and not be the past from 1950 to today, where West Virginia is the only red state in the country. The only one. Now, we figured out how to lose. We got this down pat. We need to start winning the games. That's all there is to it. Now, we got to absolutely move, and right now is the time. I hope to goodness that you believe and trust in me just as much as you did through this pandemic. Along the way, you know, a lot of bad things could have happened. I've pushed the right buttons there. I'm pushing the right button here too. This is going to put more money in your pocket, and it's going to bring goodness to West Virginia and opportunity to you and goodness across the state, and us to quit being the only one that is absolutely dead last beyond dead last beyond dead last. It's our chance, West Virginia. At the end of the day, if you stand there with the watermelon on the way and you got a tennis racket, you're going to have to hit that watermelon with a tennis racket, and you either don't swing or you whiff it. Don't blame me. All I can do is tee it up for you. Absolutely don't blame me. Tell your representatives what you want them to do. They're here because of you. Absolutely, without any question, you know, this is what we need to do. I know it with all my soul. There is nothing that we can do in government today, in this entire session. There is nothing that we can do that approaches the level of importance that this does. You know, all I can do is take you there. And I'm not a king. I don't want to be a king. But absolutely, at the end of the day right now, if this thing fails, for whatever the reason may be, we'll all lose. Thank you a bunch. I'll come back to you soon, answer more questions and everything. But thank you so much for your caring and your love for this great state. Let's all keep pulling that rope together. We'll all get there if we stay together. Thank y'all.